Well, good afternoon, Jules. We have royalty in the building, so I'm saying it very politely and very quietly here. We have royalty in the building to celebrate the 1000th Premier Class, what's that, 500cc MotoGP Grand Prix this coming weekend at the Saxon Ring. We have the one and only Dr. Martin Rains. And if anybody can't tell us about more about those 1,000 races, I've yet to meet him. Going to reflect also on that superb British Superbike meeting at Thruxton. We haven't been there. You haven't been there. I've only been there very infrequently. I think we better get the bus to Hampshire for when it's there again, because that was absolutely cracking. And we look forward to the end of the MotoGP summer season. We're back at the Red Bull Ring on Sunday. And as I said, the Red Bull Ring on Sunday, it's the 1000th Premier Class Grand Prix. Way back, it started in 1949. And a warm, warm welcome to our dear friend, Dr. Martin Rains. Rainsy, that first race was what, June 1949. Were you there with notebook in hand?
Just a little bit before my time, but perhaps you were there, Nick.
I was alive, but I certainly wasn't there. But it had to be at the TT, didn't it? That very first Premier Class race. And what was it, 7 laps? Oh my golly, so long.
Yeah, they were good long races in those days, weren't they? Back
Yeah.
at the TT. Like eventually they became 6 lap races, but in the early days there were 7 lap races and lasted for 2.5 hours or more. Yeah, they were good long races there.
That's an endurance race.
Oh no, we're back to endurance racing already.
Yeah.
We can't keep him away. But let's be honest, the Suzuka 8 hour race, we all get very excited and say how incredible the riders are. But they were racing the whole time for 3 hours round the mountain circuit.
Exactly, nothing endurance about it, just flat out. And it's the physical achievement on those bikes, on those tyres, on those roads.
Yeah.
Dear me.
I think when we come to 1957, and it was the Golden Jubilee of the TT, of course, they increased it to 8 laps. So the races were over 3 hours long then. So hard to imagine these days, I think, especially with the sprint races. And there was some, I think, talk when they introduced the sprint races. Could you equalize a win the sprint race to these guys doing 3 hours back in the day? You know, but still against the top guys on the track and so on. So yeah, it's different times.
Yeah, and Harold Daniel won it, of course, on a Norton. It had to be on a Norton, didn't it?
He did win it, and he's sometimes called to be a little bit lucky to win, or good fortune, I think it was, to win that one because Les Graham was winning by a couple of minutes, I think, in sight of the flag, and then broke down. So Harold Daniel won it, but of course Harold Daniel was a great rider, and he finished in front of a lot of other great riders. So the fact that Les Graham broke down, I think, was an aside, really. And he did win it, and he had won it in, I think, a couple of years before, and he was one who was also racing before the war. So he had his career interrupted by the war.
And the oldest rider, I think, came along 4 years later to win a 500cc Grand Prix as it was then, at the age of 44, was it?
It was Fergus Anderson. He won at 44, and he won at Montjuic Park in Spain. It was the first time. No, well, they've been going a couple of years to Montjuic, and yeah, a big long race that was as well. 53 lap race. That was, believe it or believe it not,
53
53
laps.
laps.
Mind you, it's a tiny little park circuit, so it's not
It
quite
is.
very
It
bike.
is.
Right.
But he was still more than 2 hours
I'm
at
sure.
the age of 44. So, yeah, it was that in itself was quite an endurance, I think, the going 53 laps round there.
You wouldn't have wanted me on the pit board, I tell you. You wouldn't know what flipping lap you wouldn't know what lap you were on. That would have definitely caught us out. And I think the longest race was a couple of years later, and that was at the TT as well, wasn't it? And that, as you said, that was over the 8 laps.
It was over the 8 laps, yes. So that was as the Golden Jubilee, 50 years after the TT started, and they increased it. Just, I'm sure the riders were excited about that, about it going up from 7 laps to 8.
Wasn't the Duke of Edinburgh there, and didn't he start?
Oh yeah.
That's right, threw an extra lap in for royalty, didn't he?
Probably, yeah.
And obviously, over the years, over the Grand Prix, it reflects changes. It reflects changes in everything, and certainly in machinery. And we'd been brought up, what I had, obviously watching Norton's win and British machinery, but that came to an end, didn't it? That came to an end in '69. I think the 171st Grand Prix, Godfrey Nash.
Oh yes, Godfrey Nash, who was you remember him, Julian? He was a sort of a good privateer, who still raced in the Nortons, but back in 1969.
But of course, this was in the days when people, if MV had won the championship already, they didn't bother going to the last couple of races, so the privateers could have a payday.
They could have a payday, and I would get some points on the board. Yeah. So Godfrey Nash won in Yugoslavia, a place I've never been. I don't know whether you guys have ever been to those.
I've been round the circuit, but
not Operatina. I went.
I've been to Rijeka.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. But you can go round as you
so
say.
Was that the last win by a single cylinder machine and by a British machine?
Absolutely right. Yes. So it was the last by both of those. But as you say, it was a field of privateers really, rather than the works machines had gone home because the championship.
Not unusual because in the say Gilera days, they would say they wouldn't come to the TT or whatever. And they'd save money on the first couple of races.
Yeah.
And just start at round 3. It's not uncommon.
But of course, in those days, not all the races were counted.
Yeah.
So
top 8 was it? Top 8 was it?
It was 8 out of 12 or something like that. So they could afford to miss a few of the races, and it meant that the championship could be sealed by the 8th, 9th race because it was the best 8 races out of the 12. Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, it was a dangerous old place, wasn't it? Having gone around there. On the cliff tops, really, wasn't it? And narrow roads and big rocks, and then you'd fall off into the sea.
Scary.
Yeah. And then we talk about the Normans, we talk about the 4-strokes, the single cylinder machines. It was just 2 years later, 1971, the Ulster Grand Prix, and the 2-strokes had arrived, Rainsy.
They had. Jack Finley on the Suzuki won the first 2-stroke win, and perhaps quite appropriate really for that Jack Finley won that one, because he'd started off back in 1958 on the old Nortons and Matchlises he'd ridden and all those to then take the first 2-stroke win. I think he was a guy who again was privateer mainly, but moved with the times and got on the 2-stroke and came home in that Ulster Grand Prix first, So
the first 2 RG500 riders were Jack and Barry Sheen, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were in 1974, yes, absolutely. Yeah. So he did.
Because that win was on the Twin.
It was on the twin, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it was basically a road bike. Well, the engine was a T500 Suzuki, which I had at the time. Absolutely superb bikes.
Agreed.
Yeah, and he converted it, tuned it up, and it was competitive, of course, against the competition he had at the time, which was still some of the old Nortons and Matchlises and so on. It was a part of transition really from the 4-strokes to the 2-strokes.
And Kawasaki 500s were commonly used as well as a basis.
That's correct. Yes. So it was sort of
Jim Malloy second in the championship.
Jim Malloy, yeah. There was.
And of course, 352 Yamahas, but 352 in brackets. Yeah.
Here's a can of worms. I'm just going to open it.
Right, I'd say it reflected on things, and 5 years later, it was a true reflection. It was the last ever win by Giacomo Agostini, 68 was it, Premier Class victories, and the last victory by MV Agusta, and the last for a 500cc machine. That was quite some day at the Nürburgring, wasn't it?
Martin, do you happen to have about your person Ago's percentage wins? We know numerically he is
Yes.
the most successful rider, but the sort of the scientist in me says the number doesn't matter, but the percentage of wins or podiums is what matters.
I got it about my person, yes.
I thought you might.
He had 68 wins from 119 starts in the that's in the 500 class.
Yes, I think we've got to stick to 500s.
Yeah. So that's 57%. And there's only one rider who's got an higher percentage than that, is John Surtees. And John Surtees, amazingly, only started 34 races in the 500cc.
Is that all?
Yes, because there were only 6 per season in those days.
There you go.
And again, if there was a bit more than 6, he wouldn't necessarily do it after clinching the championship.
So it's almost, again, the nerd in me says that number is almost statistically, it's out of, should we be counting that few races, really?
Totally agree. So, but he still did win 22 out of 34.
Yeah.
So you would have to up that to quite an high number, to the number of starts, even if he hadn't won anymore, to get high up in that list.
Ago, not alone in MV riders, I seem to remember Ago had loads of firsts, a few seconds, usually to his teammate, and like no thirds. And
never finished
was a breakdown.
Never finished third. In a Grand Prix.
In a 500cc Grand Prix, I don't think he ever finished.
Good.
I don't think he ever finished third. I think, as Julian says, he was either first or second. But I will check that, of course, by looking in this.
By looking in a certain book written by, would you believe, ladies and gentlemen, Julian Ryder and Dr. Martin Rain.
But the thing to remember is that the machinery was much less reliable than nowadays. So a big chunk of those those zero scores won't be being beaten on the racetrack. It'll be coasting to a halt with something not working.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So he was first, and as you said, the only times he was second when he was beat either by his teammate or by Aylwood when Aylwood got on the Honda mainly, and perhaps Phil Reed later on when Ago was on the Yamaha and Phil Reed was on the
learning two strokes. Yes,
still learning the two strokes. Yeah. Like that final win that he did on the MV at the time, he did have an RG500 Suzuki, and he was swapping them during the year. I remember the story told by our great friend Mac, who was working for him at the time, that every time he went on the MV, the crowd was so enthusiastic, cheering him round on the MV, that he decided to race that one rather than the Suzuki, even though he had lap faster on the Suzuki in practice. But he went out on the MV and won anyway. So yeah, what a great ride that was.
What a wider bow out for both MV, Four Strokes and Ago, I don't think. And at the Nürburgring as well. I think it's like the end of a real era, isn't it? Happening there.
Yeah.
2 years later, Jules knows the answer to this because I posed it last week, and he blew it out at the end of the programme. Fastest ever speed for a Grand Prix race. Jules, who was it? Average speed. I'm sorry, yeah. Who was it? You told me last week.
It's Barry Sheen at Spa.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
With a misfire on the last lap.
Oh, my golly.
Yeah. 135 miles an hour. I was on social media this week. I was debating with one or two about what speed a current MotoGP machine will go around the old Spa circuit. And the only real comparison from then to now of any of the circuits that's not been changed a great deal is Mugello.
Okay.
that they used in '76, and it's the same, more or less the same layout.
Yeah.
And that they're lapping 21 mile an hour faster average now than they were in 1976. So
21.
yeah, so if you average that, if you put that 20, say, on the 135 that Barry did then, we'd perhaps be lapping at 155 miles an hour for a modern MotoGP bike. And I don't think that's unreasonable. I think that would be probably what it would be.
The thought of that will keep me awake at night, I think, or wake me up in a cold sweat. That sounds about the most terrifying thing I've heard in decades.
I think the team managers as well will be, although probably the riders will quite enjoy it, but I'm not
Oh, they
quite
love
sure
it, I
whether,
think,
would
but
they? Yeah.
Wow.
Up to a point, Lord Copper, I think.
Yeah. What
So-
would be the top speed of those RGs,
Oh, my.
Joey, do you think?
Of the what, Martin?
Of the old RGs when they were lapping at 135 average?
175, 180.
175, that's what
I think
would
on a good, that'd be on a good day, because don't forget, we're talking two strokes.
Yeah, that's
And
Yeah.
the fuel
Yeah.
guzzling, it's not a straight line fuel consumption.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
If that, it's going to be, I'd have said 165 would be
Yeah.
probably nearer for any length of time.
Yeah, yeah.
But
So it must have been flat out for a lot of the time then.
It must have been.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they had the slow bit at the hairpin, didn't they? But the rest
you
of the
did,
time
yeah.
must have
The
been
sort of
very
hairpin,
fast.
yeah. No chicanes then, wasn't it? But for when you come into the start and finish bit or anything like that.
No, you just kept straight up.
You just kept straight up to La Source. And if you missed it, you carried on into the town, didn't you? You didn't get right.
I
Didn't get
remember
right.
50cc rider, I'm trying to remember who it was, saying that if you didn't get the hairpin right at Spa, you lost about 30 seconds lap time.
Yeah.
Yeah, on a 50, I can imagine. So, Grand Prix 222 is a certain, highlight for Dr. Martin Rains and a British rider, Rainsy.
Yeah, it was. It was my first visit to a World Championship event at the TT in 1974. It was an awful week of weather, I will tell you. It poured down and poured down. I don't know whether any of you guys were there in '74, but it was a miserable week.
I was in my
terms of
final
weather.
year at uni, Martin.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Yeah, I was still in the pram. I was still in the pram then, 74.
And one Phil Carpenter won. The senior race set off in reasonable weather, and Jack Finley actually was there, Julian, on the RG 500, and Paul Smart was there on the RG 500. But I think Jack Finley set off the fastest lap, but broke down, and the weather just got worse and worse and worse, and it was miserable by the end. It was survival of the fittest. And one Phil Carpenter won, which was interesting for me at the time, because I was starting my racing going to Aintree, and Phil Carpenter was a superstar at Aintree. He was absolutely superb at that circuit. Local lad, Warrington lad.
Coleman? Was it Coleman?
He wasn't. He was a forklift truck driver, I've found out.
Oh, right.
So he was. And I would think, and I don't know, but I would think he's the last sort of truly amateur rider to win a 500cc Grand Prix. Because
the last true privateer was Jack Middleburg.
Yeah.
I think we were agreed on that. Defined as a man who bought his own motorbike.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. But Phil Carpenter was an amateur. He was a club racer, had a full-time job. He turned up at the TT, won, never ever scored another point, never scored a point before that, and never scored a point after that. So quite a unique thing. But other than one other person did that, and he did it 2 races before that, was at the boycotted German Grand Prix. And I don't know how to pronounce his name. You might know it, Julian.
No.
Edmunds, I think it might be a silent C, Ziak.
It's Shiziak or something along those lines.
Something like that, Shiziak or something, yeah. And he was the same. He only had 1 point scoring rider in the 500 class, and he won. And those are the 2 riders. And they did it within weeks of each other. Never to be seen again, either of them, really.
Right, we better push on. There's too much to talk about here. I've gone right on now to the 581st Grand Prix, Suzuka 2002. And boy, it was a big change of regulations, wasn't it?
A big change of everything. All I remember from that race is two strokes qualifying quite well, and then being trodden into the dust by the four strokes on the run down to turn one. And managing deadly, scary motorcycles was suddenly looking like mopeds. Just a complete 180. Unbelievable.
And I think that year, Motegi, so in Japan as well, but at the end of the season, Loris Capirossi finished third. And I think Rainsy was at the last two-stroke finish in the MotoGP class.
Yeah, last
podium finish,
podium finish, in that class. And I think Julian's right. There was debate before the start of the season how the two strokes going to do against the four strokes and so on. But within 10 seconds of the start of the race, it was absolutely clear that the two strokes were yesterday's machines. It
completely.
Wasn't it? Yeah. And it was good. There were, I think, the three manufacturers finished on the podium, didn't they, that day as well?
Yes,
so
because Akira Rio on the Suzuki was third.
That's right. Yeah.
So it was a great start to the four-stroke era. Yeah,
it was.
I think it caught us all by surprise, and it certainly did me. I thought the two strokes would be more competitive.
Yeah, but maybe. Yeah.
I think
you obviously you two engineers don't agree with me.
Well, I think what I was aware of was that as soon as the words four-stroke were mentioned, and this is a Peter Clifford quote, all of a sudden money became available.
Yeah.
Marketing departments suddenly went, really? And opened their wallets. And we all know what drives lap speeds.
That's right, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think it was just the engines which took a step forward. I think the bike as a complete package took a step forward at that point because towards the end of the 500cc era, I think there was a reduction in interest by the Japanese factories.
Undoubtedly. And obviously four strokes are more relevant to the street product. And we're hitting the start of modern electronics in engine control. There already were sort of crude anti-spin and traction control, even on carburetted V4 500s. But we hadn't taken full advantage of the transistor yet, basically.
Yeah. Although there was almost a swan song, wasn't there, at the Saxon Ring?
They took each other out, didn't they?
Who do we blame for that one?
Olivier Jacques and
Alex Barros.
Yeah. Who hit who? I can't remember who hit who.
Jacques was on pole, I think.
Yeah.
I think, and it was a coming together at turn one.
There was two sides, yeah.
This year showed it's not a difficult thing to do at the Saxon Ring.
Yeah.
Now, look, time is running out, and I think, Jules, that we ought to invite Rainsy back next week to complete this because this is so interesting. And
I agree. I don't care what the audience thinks. We're enjoying it. So
that's what we've been saying the whole time with everything we've done, and we're enjoying it. That would do. I just wanted to come on to a couple of things. We've got the Red Bull Ring back in action. MotoGP after the summer break. Feelings on that? Can there be any change in direction, or will it be the same old story?
If Ducati win, they are the first manufacturer to win 10 Moto Grand Prix races at one track.
Wow. Rainsy, you've got a competitor here. Look at
It's
not got as many books. He hasn't got as many books behind him. He's coming up with a bit of facts here.
He is.
Yeah.
I go back to 1996, where Doohan was dominating the same way as Mark is this year. They went to Austria. Remember, it was flooded out in practice, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's right.
and then Crivelli won the race. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll have somebody, perhaps on a Ducati, but maybe we'll have somebody ruffles Mark's feathers this time.
Because it can rain there, and when it rains there, it comes up. It's like smoke, isn't it, coming through the trees and off the mountains? Oof. I'll never forget Andrea Iannone winning there. What his only MotoGP move was in 2016. It was rumoured, and I think it was true, that immediately there's a little airport next to the circuit. As he jumped in a plane, went straight to Ibiza to celebrate his win for 5 days, and just got back in time for the next round in Brno. Never proved, but I would not be surprised if that was the case. We had some great battles, didn't we? Last Ben battles between Marquez and Dovizioso, and Dovizioso usually came out on top against Mark, didn't he? On the Red Bull
The
ring.
more I look back at Andrea Dovizioso's last season or two, I think the win in Motegi in the wet, where he had to get the hairpin absolutely right, set Mark up on the run down to the right-hander, and then just move out the way as Mark made a Hail Mary, was one of the best races I've seen in my life.
Yeah. I think it'd have been almost appropriate if he'd have won a world title in the major class, don't you,
Yes.
Dovi? Yeah. Obviously, he won on a Honda and he won on a Ducati, but never actually won the championship. But some great races with Marquez. And then Thruxton, we were talking about Thruxton last week, Jules, and you said that you'd never been. I said, I think the last time I went, Casey Stoner was riding a 125. We better get there, I think. What a race meeting, that BSB meeting.
And that's scary. Fast, and fast tracks make for great racing. It's not difficult, folks. And Danny Kent reminded us why he was a world champion.
Yeah, he certainly did. He certainly did.
I think we all have a bit of affection for Danny because while we were working in the sport, he was a one British rider who gave us the world champions there in 2015.
Very true.
Quite right. Yeah.
So I was the same. I was cheering Danny on at the end there. It almost must be a different sport for him from riding those Motor 3, 125 bikes to those beast of machines that they've got there.
He had a Moto 2 year or two.
He did.
He did, but there was a disaster, wasn't it?
Yeah, didn't work, did he? But I
think it taught him to use his elbows. I think
probably.
That certainly helped him on Sunday, didn't it? Yeah.
But he had the braking for the chicane. He was visibly better than anybody else.
He was, and it looked like certainly in the sprint race, I think it was. He was under pressure going into that chicane. He just held it, didn't he? He was absolutely superb at that point. Yeah.
I thought of the Saxon rig, and I thought of Burgess. Get the bike to work where it matters. The rider can sort out the rest of the track, and it looked like that they'd given him a bike that was so stable on the brakes, and he could sort the rest out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it looked a great meeting. It looked like an enormous crowd there. Beautiful day. And really what BSB is all about. I thought it was fantastic.
BSB managed to get things right. Yeah. And on that point, we're just coming up in about 20 seconds' time, Nick, to the 2-minute warning.
Rightio. I better get my helmet on and get that Jap engine warming up to get out to the gate for the Speedway. I'm trying to convince Rainsy to come to Speedway, Jules, but so far no good. I think he would love it. Speedway's great, Rainsy. But, well, that's it for another episode. Rainsy, will you come back? Because that was so interesting, and we've still got so much more to talk about. And you're so much more knowledgeable than me and Jules as well.
No, I'm sure that's not the case, but I would be delighted to come back for a
Oh, that is fantastic.
And you get some Wayne Rainey stats ready for career.
No, not this. We're in proportion.
Sorry about that. I'll shut up now, Nick.
Yeah, next week we're going to reflect, obviously, on the Austrian Grand Prix and that 1,000th Premier Class Grand Prix. Who's going to win that 1,000th? And we're going to look forward to the Ballanton Park, of course, the new circuit for MotoGP. And we'll have a little glimpse towards the Manx Classic on the Isle of Man, a really cracking event. So that's it. Many, many thanks, Martin. I'm so glad you're going to come back next week because there's so much to talk about. Jules, you're going to get all your facts, aren't you, ready for Martin when he returns?
No, he's going to get them ready so I can use them in a future date. So that's the,
Many thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed
Thanks,
it.
guys. Thanks.
Cheers, Martin.
Thanks.